23rd day of May 2024. Hello everybody, I'm going to be your host tonight. I'm Dana Durnford, and you can call into these shows at 709, or in Canada, 589-4406. Lines are currently open. Hey, that doesn't quite work on. So in 2000, I see the far picture. In 2000, hang on here. In 2000. There's lots of insects. In 2020, there's no insects hitting your car windshield. And so in 2014, we were on a research expedition. We discovered that the insects were missing from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska. And over the next couple of years, we had truck drivers calling in and sending emails from all over North America. And actually, that went on for several years. And they were shocked. You know, they're going across the list listening to the show, and when they get into a gas station to take a break, they get out, check the front of their vehicles, and they're like, holy shit. And we've been studying it a lot. Now, the insects are very important. And most of the small birds we're seeing now are feeding on seeds. Very few insect-eating birds, mostly seed eaters. All right, it's a long day today. Don't want to let that bother you. So we got some videos and pictures at the end of the show. You might want to hang around. We got the boat on the trailer. We got the cabin on the boat. And it's been a hell of a day today, I tell you what. I'm trying to get everything sorted out. So we're going to jump over to this platform right here because my eyesight is failing me since I had heart attacks last year. Well, I blew out my eyesight, right? 3 heart attacks, and you put 7 stints in. Normally you get 1 or 2, but I got the lottery. So last night was an hour, 59 minutes, 42 seconds. When the show was over, I had 3 views. Had 91 views in reality, though, and 29 people on the show. We had 36 likes, but I only had 3 views when the show was over. At 10 hours in, it was an hour, 59 minutes, and 42 seconds. Show. And every show, at the end of the show, it either gets longer or shorter. So at 19 hours, I had 2 hours and 25 minutes. So that was 43 seconds, rather, added on to my video after 12 hours. And so it's best to catch the show before the first 12 hours. I've been doing this for a couple of years to me on this idiot machine known as YouTube. And every video has incredible discrepancies at the end of 12 hours. And we believe they're putting software in the videos. In 2000, post-Fukushima nuclear meltdowns, with all the horrifying stories coming out, we decided to launch research expeditions. And you're looking at the fleet right there. And we took that fleet and we went from Vancouver, British Columbia, all the way to Alaska year after year. And we spent 6 years from Vancouver to Alaska. We're currently doing the Atlantic Ocean research expeditions. We're about to launch 2024 in just a day or two. And we've hit this research from Vancouver, British Columbia for 4 to 5 months a year for 6 years doing species counts. We hit it from every direction you can imagine. It's hard to comprehend the enormity of the work that we've carried out. And so from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska, the pictures to your left is what it normally would look like. And now it's completely gone. And there was this incredible diversity of around 7,000 highly visible species. And in the 700 algae, there was another 5,500 invertebrates without the backbones, like little shrimp. There was 480 worms on the coastline of British Columbia, species in the sea worms. They're missing. The beaches that are made out of shells are now missing shellfish, which is something I never dreamt could happen. And the species to your left, would you rather have that or would you rather have nuclear power? That's the poll tonight. Would you rather have flocks of birds and insects and bees and whales and animals and mammals, etc., than nuclear power? And this is we're saying that because this is what's going on. Fukushima was a catastrophic event. So the species to your left was, if you're going to go on vacation on the Pacific Ocean on the coastlines, you want to see that. You don't want to see this. And that's all you're going to see. You'll never see those pictures again. They're permanently gone. And so the 19 days later, 468 hours, 19.5 days, the whole planet's covered in plumes. And all the academic studies, or all the universities, are showing that same thing. This was a plume event, a massive plume from multiple reactors. Now they're claiming there was no meltdowns, nothing got out, it's just tritium. These are an International Atomic Energy Agency is leading the propaganda charge, right? So they're lying to you, and I'm going to show you the truth. And I'm probably not going to sugarcoat much because I had a long day, which usually makes for an entertaining show. So the species to the left now are exterminated. That's an extinction event. That's not an opinion. It's not a conjecture. That's a fact. We went out and done the research species, and we went back for 5 more years to see if the species recovered, and the species didn't recover. So these pictures here are the same places. So it's a complete extinction event. This was the nursery of the Pacific Ocean, by the way. And would you rather go on vacation and see that and stuff like this and stuff like that? Or do you want to go in and look at this? Because that's what's there now. That's gone permanently. So the nuclear industry has enormous control over the medias, the universities, key positions in government. And they're strangling you to death, the entire ecosystem and the 8 million species. They're strangling you and every species to death with their fantasies. This is 80 years of inbreed. 80 years of these inbreeds, their parents were scumbags, and their parents were scumbags, and their parents were scumbags. And the current generation are just literally and figuratively monsters. In the context of, they're so disconnected from what it is to be a human. If they read a book on a human experience, they would call it a fantasy. Because they don't understand love. They don't understand happiness. They don't covet life. Nuclear. And how much can they steal? Because 90% of the money that goes to nuclear is looted through administration. 90% of the money that goes to a nuclear project goes to administration. 90% of the money that goes to mitigation for nuclear catastrophic pollution of the environment, Superfund sites, goes to administration. And so their kids get those cushy jobs because their parents were exceptionally evil to you and all the species and humanity and the 8 million and the future of humanity. So I can quantify that because I've done the researches. Now, that's 6 years in the Pacific. We're doing it in the Atlantic. And it's a nightmare what we're seeing. And so I'm going to cover stories of die-offs that, not all, but the majority I can associate with Fukushima's event. And I'll explain it as I just done to you. Let's go back to 2014. 25 pilot whales found dead. Showed all the animals had empty stomachs. This is pilot whales. This is important, though. And the whales that died in the Everglades were pilot whales too. There was a group of them ran up on the beaches, and they had empty stomachs. And by 2015, they stopped reporting on the health of the animals. And they came out and said, oh, it was probably a storm blew them up on the beaches, or they got lost, or they didn't know where they were to, and there was no one to give them direction. And nothing to do with science, everything to do with dumbing down a population, or just turning the population off from the conversation. So lately they've been screeching that the whales are being killed by boats. And if a whale is confirmed to be hit by a boat, every media on the planet will come out with that story. And I'll show you examples of that. So if you go back and read this story, 2014, this is interesting. They counted 28 whale strikes in the northeastern water between 2006 and 2010. They're getting that every day now. Everything must have died of a ship strike, or got lost and washed up because of a storm or something. Like the most insane statements. And worldwide, a National Marine Fisheries Service survey covering 1975 to 2002 found 292 records of confirmed or possible ship strikes to whales. So from 1978 to 2002. But now every whale, they're trying to blame it on a ship strike. Or probably a ship strike. And if there's a whale that they're floating, well, that was probably a ship strike. The media reports on. That's what they're going to say. And this thing, media, you got to change the name to monsters. There is no such thing as a media. Okay, so let's cover, this is probably where I'm going to be tomorrow, hopefully. The launch in Holyrood, designated as a test center for NATO's Diana network. NATO's Deignated network. It's not very far away from it. This is probably a 40-minute drive away from me or something. This is the university's little one university here on the East Coast. And NATO has set up shop there. I thought that was really interesting. The launch, which is Marine Institute's Living Lab in Holyrood. Living Lab. She barely got anything left there. If you go in front of their lab, there's no birds in the ocean whatsoever. All summer long, there's no birds feeding in front of that laboratory. And they're not reporting on that. Has been designated as a test center for NATO, which was supposed to be disbanded after the Soviet Union was disbanded. Right, they were created as a response for the Soviet Union, and now you can't get rid of them. And now they've infiltrated everything. If you look up NATO's 30 militaries, it doesn't say 30 countries, it says 30 militaries. It's the big boy on the block with nuclear weapons, and they got it all. They got standing armies all over the place. And they're using your countries and your money, your monetary, your weapons without your consent. And they're meddling in everything. You know, the war in Ukraine is not a war. That's a proxy war by NATO. NATO's supplying all the weapons, all the technical assistance, all the drones. The launch received a designation along with 10 other test centers and 2 accelerator sites across the country. 12 other test centers. And they're hooked up with a university. A military-industrial complex is now hooked up with a new university down here. The whole story is insane. And the universities, they'll suck anything to get some prestige in their little mines, their compartmentalized little mines. And the director said the news is part of a significant expansion across numerous NATO countries. And notes that the launch, well, we don't have a referendum on NATO in Canada or the United States or anywhere else. They showed up for the Soviet Union and never went away, and now they have co-opted your countries. Just like this disgusting United Nations. The launch is actually one of the two sites chosen in the province, the other being the National Research Council facility in St. John's. She says that opens them up to various challenges to NATO Dana program issues. That means researchers can choose the launch as a site for their work and make use of the facilities and the students. These are not expertise. Every professor in every university that we've covered is a scumbag. They lie, right? And we quantify those assertions with their lies. Anyway, let's get after it. Officials haul whale carcass off to Venice Beach and out to sea. Researchers rule out possible causes of death like bowel obstructions from plastic or other ocean debris. We hear that connotation a lot too, don't we? Oh, it must be plastic. They can't die of old age. They can't die of anything else. Oh, must have been a boat strike. Had bite marks on his head, believed to come from another sperm whale. Believed. And then when they show you a picture, you can't quantify that assertion. Researchers said it's not normal for a sperm whale to be so close to shore. They had 14 run up on a beach in between New Zealand and Australia last year, right? At the same time as hundreds of pilot whales ran up and drowned it and died. And they don't report on whether their stomachs are empty or full or whether they're emaciated. You can tell, though, because of the peanut heads, right? So the fact it was this close to shore and skinny. Oh, it had bites on his head, but it was skinny. Right, so if you keep reading, it tells us something has been going wrong for a while. These scumbags to mention the word bites on their heads, to do that when actually the animal was emaciated. We see it so much, eh? Like literally, if someone come up to me and said, "Hi, I'm a journalist," I'm going to spit in their face. A beach, I know I won't do it, but I'll tell them, get away from me because I'm going to spit in your face. Piece of shit. A beach sperm whale appeared just off the coast, but it died early Monday before crews could sedate it and move it. Sedate and move a whale. A sperm whale. First off, you're not going to sedate that whale, okay? Because that whale's been dead for quite a while. You disgusting parasites. They really are parasites, aren't they? Whale deaths are up in Newfoundland, but the province's whale rescuer isn't worried yet. This is insane. There were 21 dead whales found in Newfoundland and Labrador's waters. What's the date on this story? 2019. Because there are going to be a few of these stories that I didn't see before and we covered because I could have been out on research expeditions and didn't get a chance to cover it, right? But Wayne Liddell says the spike could be from increased monitoring. Like, that's literally the stupidest statement imaginable. It's literally the stupidest statement imaginable. The majority of the whales were clearly emaciated. He's not sounding the alarm. Normally, you see 5 to 10 whales in our water or wash up on shore. That's not a normal. It's a normal year post-Fukushima. Pre-Fukushima, you didn't see it at all. One every couple of years, maybe. And it was because it was old age or something. But to say you see 5 to 10 whales every year is ludicrous assertions. There's been an increase in aerial surveys due to the number of North Atlantic right whales reported dead in the last 2 years. Yes, and they were mostly emaciated, weren't they? And because this province, the whole coastline is pretty well populated. That's just them up playing with airplanes, is all that was. One was a sin whale, similar in size to a fin whale, but not often seen off the Newfoundland and Labrador coastlines. And the northern bottlenose whale was emaciated, he said. The animal was extremely thin. It wasn't sick, it was emaciated. Its food was wiped out. The food chain's been broken, right? The animal was extremely thin. No, you're not worried about it because he's part of the industry. And he taught in the CBC, who's the first ones to lie to you anyway. Lidwell took samples from both whales and sent them from testing. But he said it's unlikely he'll ever figure out why the northern bottlenose died. It's emaciated. The food chain is broken. I showed you the pictures of our research expeditions at the beginning. This is not a drill. They cleaned the carcass, took the skeleton of the bottlenose to display for educational purposes, just because it might be the last time you get a chance when they'll be gone in no time. It was the first time he's seen one in about 15 years. This story has been posted a couple of times, and YouTube disappears it in my links. Hundreds of Australian salmon washed up dead on a 90-mile beach in Australia. There's also a penguin there too. I'm going to play that little video. I'll get out of the way here. I'm going to play that little video because you really got to listen to him. He's finding adult salmon washed up everywhere.
I have never witnessed anything like this in my life. There are dead salmon all over the beach. All the way up there, dead salmon everywhere. Big dead salmon. Have a look at this. Look at them. To there, all the way along. There's something there. I don't know what that is. I've got to have a look at that. Another big one there. All the way up the beach. Dead salmon everywhere. I've never ever seen anything like it. What's going on? What on earth is going on? What is this thing? That's a penguin. Is this a natural thing? I don't know. I've never seen it. I've been here 13 years now. I've never seen anything like this. Oh my God. If somebody out there knows what's going on here, please let me know. Look at him, it just keeps going. All the way along the beach. Up here, down, further down. Wow. I'm not going to walk any further. You get the idea. They smell too. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. What's happening in the ocean for all these to die? And that little penguin. What's going on with that? Very strange. Holy crap. There's a couple. There's one down there right on the water's edge. Or is it just a natural thing that they look big, they look old, maybe? Are they just naturally dying? I don't know. Weird. But look, as far along the beach as you can see. There. just when you think you've seen everything on this beach. Wow, that's incredible. Look at it.
So you got adult salmon, large salmon washing up on the beach as far as you can see, and in groups too, right? And so maybe 10% is what he's seeing in that little tiny section. That's a stunning amount in such a small area. That's why all the whales are showing up emaciated up there at the same time. I've never seen a whale before. They never been to a beach before or something. He's emaciated for sure. That one over there is emaciated. And I'm assuming the other one's there because that's what we see with all of them over the last 7, 8, 9 years in particular. Literally everyone we see is emaciated. Oh, the BBC. Jimmy Saville's best friend has been told the North Sea is unsuited to the deep diving species, and it's not clear why they were in the area. Not clear. They were there because they were starving to death. They couldn't find food in their normal hunt, and that's why they ended up somewhere else. There's the open question about whether it's due to our activities in some form. Whether noise, it's British, right? I friggin' hate these people. Whether noise is causing them to enter this area. Noise. Oh, there was never any ships on the ocean till now, Dana. Whether climate change is having an impact. Fukushima is climate change. Do you get it? Let me explain it to you. Let me explain to you what climate change actually is. You'll like this. This is entertaining. Well, first off, let's look at what climate change is not. You like this too. This is pretty fun. What percent of our atmosphere? So this man is going to ask Congress people, what percentage of who are in charge of the carbon, what percentage of the atmosphere is carbon, CO2? I'm sorry, carbon. And I got to adjust the volume. I'm not sure which one is which, so, oh yeah, that's the DR one there. So I might have to bump it, but let's get it, I'll get it out of the way here. I'm already out of the way, so let's get it out after it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Panelists, let me just go right down the line real fast. What percent of our atmosphere is CO2? Take your best guess. You don't have to be accurate. All down the line.
Repeat that question.
What percent of our atmosphere is CO2, carbon dioxide? Wild guess, it's okay.
I'll bite 5%.
5?
I'll just follow you then.
We'll go 7. That's my favorite number.
I'll see their 5 and suggest that we know that transportation causes 49% of CO2, so that's why we're all working on energy transition.
All right. So what number do you think it is?
5.
5? How about you? I didn't hear you, Mr. Dreyer.
7.
7. Did you have one, Mr. Boyd?
So we got a 5, 7,
This price is right.
8. I'm going to
Okay.
get the high end.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I don't mean to put you on ice. I ask a lot of people that because all we hear is climate change, CO2, CO2. I heard a couple of you on the panel saying you're looking to change your vehicles to electric, even though we don't have the electric grid. And me as a farmer, I wouldn't be real happy about running out and replacing $300,000, $500,000, $1 million pieces of equipment because someone wants it to be electric. The answer is 0.04%. Not 1%, not a half of a percent. It's 0.04%, and it's gone up from 0.03 over the last couple decades. This is what we're being all contorted into doing, is this tiny change in CO2. If we get below 0.02, plant life starts dying off.
So it's 0.04%. Some haven't even said, what's your favorite number? Like the disconnect is something else. So it's clearly not CO2 because CO2, by the way, doesn't pulse energy at the speed of light every second. Okay, so here's what it is though. 80 years of this. Emissions from nuclear plus pulse events like Fukushima. Well, there's never been nothing like Fukushima. Fukushima is in its own category. Each reactor at Fukushima is worse than all nuclear meltdowns we know about combined. Just a single reactor. So this is reactor 3 detonating. It ejected the fuel pools and the reactor cores right out of the building. Officially, though, United Nations says nothing happened and everything is in the tanks. And it's only tritium. Nothing got out. Have a nice day. This was a plume model April 7, 2011, covering the entire planet. This is a plume model of Neptunium-239 based on 20 days, 26 days, 21 days of plutonium-239 dispersal. You got 20 days of xenon-133. You got, I think this is a 16-day model or a 31-day. I'll tell you in a second. Yeah, this is a 31-day model when it stops. But I'll tell you when you get to 20 days. This is 20 days right there after the tsunami. The whole planet is covered, and now this study is France's study, and what they're talking about is 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air covering the entire planet of cesium-137. Did you hear what I said? 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. We've never heard nothing like this in our history. This is a model from NOAA, the American government, based on 40 days. I got to speed up double what they had it at originally. And this is iodine-131 and cesium-137. Now, cesium-137, by the way, pulses energy 600 feet every second. Through your neighbor's house, and your neighbor's house, and your neighbor's house, and then destroy your chromosomes, your DNA, and your cells. What do you think it's doing to the insects and the birds and the animals and the whales? By the way, that's clearly emaciated. So you got a study on Neptunium-239. You got a study on Plutonium-239. You got a study on Cesium-137. You got a study on Xenon-133 covering the entire planet. You got a study on Iodine-131 and Cesium-137. That's just a fraction of the models from the governments worldwide and studies of radioactive fallout from Japan. This is catastrophic. Everything with replicating cells on top of that. And so the best way to think about climate change is this. Clearly it's not carbon, right? 0.04% of the atmosphere is. And so if it gets down to 0.02, plants can't grow. We need more carbon is what we need. But you got a plume covering the planet in 31 days. Most of the models are 20 to 30 days. Pulsing energy almost at the speed of light for millions of years. And so they can detect the cesium-137 pretty easily. So then you do a mathematical equation, extrapolate uranium, plutonium, americium, neptunium, strontiums, and 1,000 other fission products that are going to be in that same plume. And they got studies of 20 million atoms, 20 million particles, which is even worse, of iodine-131 in British Columbia. You got 220 million atoms of iodine-131 in Ottawa in a study. You got studies on the sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyball in California. Multiple studies from different institutions. You got studies. Clearly, something happened. And so all these whale deaths, these unusual mortality events of all the species, are post-Fukushima, not pre-Fukushima. One Walker told the BBC, "I'm absolutely staggered that something that size could ever come up the Humber, let alone get so far up. It's absolutely incredible. We're very sad to hear about the stranding and subsequent death of these sperm whales. I'd Like, first off, just having one whale die on your coastline is extraordinary. Having them multiple at the same time showing up in your beaches, emaciated, is now the new norm, by the way. So they closed the eastern North Pacific gray whales, and there was over 10,000, they estimated, died in this period. There was over 10,000 culverted beak whales, they estimated, died around the coastline of the United Kingdom, Ireland, Scotland, because they found over 1,000 different stages of decomposition. Now they estimated the last show we done on this topic, there was over 7,000 humpback whales that they didn't account for had died, and the majority of them were confirmed to be emaciated. We covered these unusual mortality events. Just let me refresh your mind a little tiny bit on that, actually. Oh, excuse me. And we've been covering this for years and years, post-Fukushima. And it's the same thing with the supercell storms, the supercell hurricanes, the supercell cyclones, the supercell typhoons, the massive derricos. These all correlate post-Fukushima. Just let me run through some key sea nature stories. We'll come right back to this story. That story. 2017-2019 mink whale unusual mortality event along the Atlantic coast, which was not just Atlantic, it turns out. 2017-2019 North Atlantic right whale unusual mortality event. Killer whales showing up starved to death. Now, killer whales will eat over 300 species. They'll eat whatever they want. So how is it all these whales, by the way, can show up emaciated? But yet there's food. There's not a lot, but there's still food there. And so the theory would be they got leukemia because of the radiation bioaccumulation. Alaska seabird die-off continues for another summer. Seabirds found emaciated and starved. And, you know, this story about the bears a couple of years, 2 years ago, and they were showing these pictures. Now, I had done research expeditions right along that shoreline. And clearly there's nothing there, only kelp cabbage and kelp weed. There should be 7,000 species. There's incredible diversity of all kinds of species. The reason they're showing up is because the leukemia. And so a bear doesn't strictly eat salmon. They're trying to blame it on the salmon, right? Bears will eat 200,000 berries a day. Of course, berries are notorious for bioaccumulation of radioactive fallout. So they claim because the salmon didn't show up, the bears are emaciated. But there's lots of bears in places. Bears also eat elk, and they eat other bears, and they eat moose, and they eat deer. They eat berries, eat grubs. They eat all kinds of things, you know, not just. Mysterious mass deaths of Alaska seabirds baffle scientists. Tens of thousands. It was 1.4 million of the common murres, and they dive 600 feet all day long. And they feed on anchovies and squid and krill and sardines, and they can't find food. And there's nothing, as I showed you at the beginning, I showed you my research expeditions along those same coastlines. There's nothing on the shoreline for them to eat anymore, see? They all starved to death. And it wasn't just common murres, by the way. They had a mortality event, a mass mortality event of Cassini auklets at the same time. So you had two different spectrums of the food chain, one eating microscopic and the other eating the krill, the sardines, the squid, the small 8, 9, 10-inch fish. Biologists examined the birds, said they appear emaciated. And so, like, they appear emaciated. Then the next sentence, we know they're starving because their stomachs are empty. Marine research is shocked as unprecedented number of whale carcasses wash up on the west coast. The largest mortality event of this species anywhere ever. Between August 9th and yesterday, no less than 81 of the deep-sea animals, predominantly culverted beak whales, washed up in various stages of decomposition on the beaches and the coastlines over in the United Kingdom. And it was a total of over 1,000. It was 1,100 or something. So they estimated 10,000 died. And we covered it back then, right? And clearly they were emaciated. The Scottish Marine Animal Stranding Scheme usually records fewer than 3 deaths of the species a year, but the cause of the 81 deaths since August is a mystery. Well, three deaths a year is post-Fukushima, not pre-Fukushima, by the way. And so they're showing up everywhere on the migratory route, emaciated, and off the migratory route. And researchers predict the West Coast killer whales will exceed 1,000 atoms per kilogram of radioactive cesium. Well, it's going to have 100 times more strontium-90, right? And it's going to be saturated with the iodine-129 because we've never seen anything like it in our life, what happened at Fukushima. But it was the straw that broke humanity and 8 million species back, right? 80 years of emissions from the nuclear scumbag industry has condemned every species, and it's time to make a stand. Killer whales down along the Pacific coast, sick, emaciated. 20,000 birds starved to death off the Dutch coast. Alaska adds krill and mussels to the list of unusual marine deaths. First off, I didn't find any mussels except for little itty-bitty baby ones, and normally all the rocks were covered in mussels. If there was nothing else there, it was mussels. 10 sperm whales die after, and these were all emaciated. And look at them. They're up. We've never seen nothing like that pre-Fukushima. New Zealand, whales won't stop killing themselves in New Zealand. And you can clearly, these are emaciated. Their spines are sticking right up. 400 whales beached themselves in New Zealand. So, like I showed you earlier, 2014, the whales had the pilot whales, nothing in their stomach. And there was different groups of it, they had nothing in their stomachs. They stopped reporting on it after 2015, because we were recovering it back then, right? Same as we're doing today. 2016, 2021, humpback whale unusual mortality along the Atlantic coast. We already covered that. Manatees now unusual mortality events. 30 whales found dead in unusual mortality event. Like 30 whales, large whales, different species. Starvation caused the mass bird deaths. Shearwaters were the primary one. They didn't show up in... normally they would head to Australia, right? Suspecting highly pathogenic avian influenza. And like the domoic acid story, it turns out not to be true, right? To be killing birds, including seagulls, ducks, terns, cormorants. Cormorants actually abandoned the Pacific Ocean for central Canada and Atlantic. And they've never been in the Atlantic before. And they're succeeding compared to the other species. No highly pathogenic influenza was found. So they put the connotations out there. And when you got to keep reading, then it says, well, there was no influenza found. So why even have it there in the first place? Why didn't you put that right there after that last sentence, see? They issued a statement suspecting highly pathogenic avian influenza. And so that sentence should have been right there, but there was no highly pathogenic. Because that's the same article. It's a scumbag thing to do. It's a degenerate thing to do. They confirmed that the dead birds they examined as emaciated. All of them. And the consensus is they died of starvation. So it was the same thing with the sea lions that died recently in Peru, right? So they're blaming it the deadly bird flu outbreak. But you can see, buddy, these people right here. And so when you look at the picture, that's not bird flu, that's starvation. That's one of the worst emaciated sea lions I've ever seen, by the way. And it was over 3,500 at that time. But it gets better, because then they show you another picture, and that's unbelievably emaciated. But yet, they have the arrogance, the hubris to suggest it's bird flu. They were doing that with domoic acid, right? But yet the pictures they're showing you got nothing to do with the bird flu. This takes a friggin' long time, okay? The alleged bird flu kills them within a couple of days. You don't get emaciated in a couple of days. You don't lose 8 inches of blubber in a couple of days. And so they're saying the same virus, the bird flu, they're saying it killed that animal, and bird flu that killed this animal, which didn't. Obviously it died of starvation. Is wild birds like ducks and seagulls and geese and hawks and owls in the United States. We covered all of those stories, by the way, where cases have been identified among bears and foxes and bobcats and raccoons and deers and dolphins. So they're trying to blame the die-off of all the species on imaginary bird flu. You know, the bird flu has been around for 1 billion years. It's never jumped. You know why? Because it doesn't work that way. These people are disgusting, even on the best of days. Climate change likely played a role. You know, Fukushima radioactive fallout, climate change. And scientists are investigating. One primary suspect is no food. In other words, they starved to death. The whales reached a population of 27,000 in 2016. They didn't reach a high in 2016 at all. They were dying off before that, you know, post Fukushima, but have since dropped to 16,650, which means 10,350 died. Birth rates, and these were all emaciated. Birth rates are down 40% in just the last year. 8 dead sperm whales found on a German beach. 8. Look at them. Like, these are massive animals. You're not going to move them alongside of each other. Look at the peanut head, right? They're emaciated. 6 sperm whales died in rare mass beaching in Australia. Nothing's rare post-Fukushima. And you can clearly see it's emaciated, peanut head. 2 more sperm whales wash up on a beach in the Dutch. 337 whales beached in the largest die-off ever recorded at that time. Officials reveal suspected cause of death for 2 whales found floating. I said their deaths are not related. They're both found floating together, but their deaths are not related. These people are insane. The male likely died of blunt force trauma, and the female likely been killed by blunt force trauma consistent with vessel strikes. But I showed you at the beginning the actual tally for vessel strikes was 260 between 1976 and 2002. But all of a sudden now all the whales are dying of vessel strikes. Did a marine heat wave cause 7,000 humpback whales to go on a diet and starve themselves to death? The heat wave is Fukushima. That's what the heat wave actually is. You destroy the food chain and the system doesn't operate properly, and so now it heats up. And it's done by Fukushima. Have scientists discovered 7,000 humpback whale deaths using AI technology? That's all they're good for anyway. Okay, back to the story we started that whole memory road trip with. The unusual mortality event involving stranded, that's not stranded, that was dead weeks ago, along the west coast of North America has ended. Well, it didn't end, did it? Just because they said it ended, but it actually doesn't, it hasn't ended. You wiped out a huge population, though, so you slowed it. You're not finding as many because you wiped out the majority of the population. 690 gray whale strandings, including 347 in the United States, 316 in Mexico, 27 in Canada. Yeah, but when you add up all the species, we're seeing it symmetrically throughout all the species. Strandings occurred from Alaska to Mexico along the west coast of North America, including the whales' wintering, migratory, and feeding areas. The investigative team concluded that the primary cause of the unusual mortality event was localized ecosystem changes in the whales' subarctic and Arctic feeding areas that led to changes in the food, malnutrition, starvation, decreased birth rates, and increased mortality, all documented during the unusual mortality event. And necropsies, which is an autopsy on an animal, finding from a subset of dead gray whales found malnutrition / starvation and did not identify underlying diseases. For quite a few years, they tried to blame everything on domoic acid. And about 4 or 5 years after they started, they finally had to acknowledge it. It took them about 6 months before they stopped trying to use that, and then they switched to bird flu. I'm afraid to answer the phone now because I hear it so much. I'm going to get bird flu if I answer the fucking phone. Abundance estimates of the eastern and North Pacific whales, like they're digging themselves a hole they can't get out of. The world is going to hate every one of these academics and scientists in the near future. I mean, hate, including their families. They've been aligned for post-Fukushima so much, and they can't hide the truth much longer. The North Pacific gray whale population showed that it declined during the unusual mortality event from 20,000 whales in 2019 to 14,500 in 2023. But they were dying pre, which is 5,974. But like, they're only going back to 2019. These whales were dying before 2019. Right? 2015, 2016, 2017. And gray whale dies, and so then the very next day, gray whale dies after washes ashore Malibu Beach. Oh, I thought it was over. Look at it. The peanut head and all, man. Clearly emaciated. Hard case is all I can say. Must suck to be a scumbag like that. It's not unusual for gray whales to wash up on the shores of the California beaches. Yeah, post-Fukushima. You've never seen it at all pre-Fukushima. Because they sank, right? There were so few of them, they would sink. And they died of natural old age. Calling them scumbags just doesn't seem to do it justice either. Something is profoundly wrong. This is 2023, August the 1st. Marine biologists puzzled by large beaching of pilot whales. And remember, 2014, 2015, parts of 2016, the whales, when they would beach in these groups, they would do necropsies on them, and their stomachs were empty. But after that, they stopped reporting on the health of the whales. And I whined and sniveled and cried about it for years, right? Every time we covered these stories. And you remember this because we covered this when it happened. More than 50 pilot whales dead after potting nearly 100. So they gathered together very closely too. And then they didn't know what to do. And they were starving to death. The food chain is broken. And they run up on the beaches. And that was the consensus before they stopped reporting on the health. Now they're like, well, I don't know. We think they got lost, or we think it was noises. Maybe it was a storm, Dana. They wouldn't say it to my face, I can tell you that much. Young gray whale washes ashore in La Jolla. Oh, I thought the gray whale stopped dying. I thought the unusual mortality event was over there, fisheries and oceans. You useful idiots. Oh, it looked emaciated. Well, it's either emaciated or it's not. Back in December, a young fin whale washed ashore on Pacific Beach, too. They said the cause of death from the previous whales could have been a virus. Oh, they could have got fucking anal probes from an alien, from a UFO, you piece of shit. So the minute I heard the word professor, I have nothing but contempt now. After all these years, every time you see a professor, he's a scumbag. Like a coward, really, right? These are cowards. Could have been a virus. You're a fucking virus. should not really exist in these waters. Scientists spot gray whales thought to be extinct in the Atlantic. Yeah, they are extinct. They're gone there looking for food and desperation. Right, they're up. They're finding up here in the St. Lawrence. They've never been to St. Lawrence before. Because they found some krill up there, right? Incredible rare event. My brain was trying to process what I was seeing because this animal is something that should not exist in these waters. To see an animal that disappeared from the Atlantic hundreds of years ago. It's interesting how all these are able to block out Fukushima. No, Fukushima. More than 70 gray whale deaths in 6 months, and scientists don't understand why. That was 2019 story. Most of them were skinny and malnourished, which suggests they probably didn't get enough to eat. Suggest they were skinny and they were emaciated. It's easy to see when they're emaciated. It just stands because we see so much of it now, right? We have so much confirmation. The conditions of the dead whale also suggest there are many that scientists aren't counting because emaciated whales tend to sink. That's a very important tidbit, by the way, because we find a massive amount on the beaches. And so instead of typically you would, pre-Fukushima, if a whale died, you didn't say, well, 10 more died at sea. We didn't find them. Post-Fukushima, that's what they say, right? Well, there was 5. That meant 50 of them must have died because 5 of them washed up on the beaches. They tell so many lies, and then when they throw the truth out there, they trip up all their buddies, and all their buddies freak out. So you can't go say stuff like that. People will work this out. The numbers that actually washed up do represent a fraction of the true numbers. Some estimators suggest as few as 10% that wash up. Pre-Fukushima, you never ever see, you won't find a fucking story out there with that connotation in it. Pre-Fukushima. It's only post-Fukushima they say that. In 2016, scientists estimated there were about 27,000 scientists. It's like the most hateful, it's the most embarrassing thing to be called now as a scientist. Sperm whales beached off Florida golf course dies. Sperm whales, it's unbelievable how many sperm whales we watch and die. Because squid is a very, very important keystone species, right? The beached whale was very thin / emaciated, indicating he wasn't healthy. I'm assuming that anybody who writes that kind of statement never seen a fucking beach in their life. Doesn't even know, wouldn't know what a whale is. They would think it was a shark originally. They're like, "I'm a big shark. We better get out of here." Clearly emaciated. Over 800,000 salmon died suddenly. That was March 4th, 2024. I missed that one. Oh, it was gas bubble disease data. Anything from Yahoo, Yahoo's disgusting, isn't it? That was gas bubbles. Caused by severe changes. So they're saying they got the bends. We've heard, that's not the first time we ever heard that, right? Got a bunch of fucking insect bites on my leg. I was only working 10.5 hours a day. I can barely do anything with my fingers, tip of my fingers. They're all shot now. Yeah, it'll get better. We got all the work done now. We just got to throw the motors on the boat tomorrow. Hopefully. I'll show you videos at the end. You'll know what I mean by this statement. I think we got it conquered anyway, personally. Caused by severe changes in water pressure. This is the stupidest thing imaginable. They were saying, the British are notorious, right, for saying stuff like that. And the British used to say that about a lot of the whales, right? The noise out in the ocean, the whales came up too quick and got the fucking bends. That doesn't work like that. the whales are not down with big fucking scuba tanks on their back, okay? Compressed air. I got the bends. That's what ended my diving career. I got the bends, right? Only because I got work that fucking did. I was on the ocean floor for 128 days straight, six hours a day on the ocean floor. And I was going to retire that year and just be an operator, right? But oops. $830,000 fish likely perished. I just can't get over that story, man. From gas bubble disease. California Department of Fish and Wildlife said, yeah, I'm sure they did. The crazies are everywhere, man. Striped creature windles in his eyelids found in the forest. It's a new species. While searching the rocky forest, researchers found several striped lizards that didn't match any known records. Beautiful, isn't it? I just love the species so much. You got to enjoy everything now. A large dragon-like creature able to change colors discovered as new species. I was pretty excited about that one. Turns out he's another little critter. He's not large. Well, he's large in that particular species, I suppose. And there he is. He's spectacular, though, isn't it? Look at him giving you the evil eye up in the corner. I love it. Like, I see you, buddy. I just love species. A great white shark weighing 1,500 pounds washes onto a Florida beach. Everybody went down and got their selfies, I suppose. They can reach 21 feet, 4,500 pounds, according to Noah. I got no idea what happened to him, so I'm not saying jack shit, but I'll cover the story because a lot of stories, like I'll read it, and then if I find anything suspicious, then I'll start screen capturing it and we'll cover it, right? Huge 70-foot long whale dies after washing up on an Irish beach as locals urged to stay away. Yeah, the United Kingdom, man. Well, the Queen used to own all. Now it's King Charles. He owns all the species that washes up on the beach. That's his property, right? And what's the name of the species? Have to report it to. I can't remember the proper terminology anymore. It's something to do with the monarchy, anyway, right? Oh, that one's clearly emaciated. Peanut head. Look at the peanut head. Is it a sperm whale? I don't know. I can't remember. That's a peanut head, though, if I ever saw one. Perhaps the whale came into the beach to die. Maybe got sand stuck in his gills. And whales don't have fucking gills, you moron. You dummy. Maybe sand got stuck in his gills. That's a new one on me, man. Or it was hit by a boat or a rock. As a journalist, the fucking stupidest creature on the planet is a journalist, right? maybe sand got in his gills, or was hit by a boat or a rock, and let's go and find the stupidest person we can, get them to quote something. We're going to print it because we're a journalist. Imminent insect demise means global food web is on the verge of collapse. So much for laughing, I suppose. It's been a while since I laughed. Imminent insect demise means global food web is on the verge of collapse. That's a gallows laugh that time. And I got to get my act together here now because that story kind of spoilt me today. Maybe I got sand stuck in his gills, or he was hit by a boat or a rock. Poor. I shouldn't laugh because he's probably in charge of your country or something. Imminent insect demise means a global food web is on the verge of collapse. Imminent insect demise means the global food web is on the verge. So the pollinators. A global food web is on the verge of collapse because the bees are bringing back radioactive pollen to their hives and destroying it. See? Fukushima has wrecked the entire ecosystem. Buried in late Friday afternoon news cycle, the most recent annual assessment available to insect health indicates the loss of whole insect communities is imminent. And so a couple of years back, 3 years ago in Pacific, I was doing a research expedition across the province. It's 900 miles of unkept trails, right? And we couldn't find spiders. It should be 500,000 per acre. And so normally I'll check the spiders to see what species are in that area. Check their webs, right? Couldn't find any webs. But we were finding them on houses, on vehicles, and they were always deformed with one or two, at best, insects in it, just barely enough to sustain a spider, right? And the webs were always deformed, but they're always on man-made structures. And so I finally assumed, because we couldn't find them in the forest anywhere, but we were finding on houses, and the birds weren't around. The insect-eating birds were gone, and so they weren't here to scoop them up. And like the whole houses, every house would be covered in these spiders and deformed webs. And so obviously the plants suck up radiation. I can show you all the studies how that work. There's endless studies how plants and fruit and vegetables suck up radiation, which makes you wonder, why are all nuclear power plants surrounded by farms? Oh, they're trying to poison you in the supermarket. The engineers engineered that in. And so I was probably 400 miles away from home out in the woods by myself. And I was up in this area where I had a connection, so I posted a video. Spiders are missing. And that day, there was a group of people that come down on the ferry and got off in Argentina, or Argentia, rather, and they were going to ride across the train tracks across the province, which is 900 miles or something, and get on the next ferry and go back to Nova Scotia. And you're allowed to do that down here, right? You actually drive down the roads down here. They don't give a shit anymore. Well, they care, but they're not allowed to chase you, so they just leave you alone. And they stopped. I was at this salmon river, and I had the underwater drone in the river, and there was nothing there. Fishers and Oceans were there for a couple of days, come by and chatted with me and asked me. They knew who I was and asked me, was I finding anything? Because they weren't seeing anything in the gates down below, right? But weren't any small fries or anything like that there. I couldn't find anything. And he was telling me horror stories at that time because he's an avid woodsman, right? And he's in on the quad all the time. And in the summertime, you're always bouncing the dragonflies off your helmet, right? Because they're great big multi-wing. They eat a lot of insects, right? In fact, they're the top of the predator for insects. And he said, barely seen one in the last 2 years. He said, it's amazing. And he was telling me how that was 3 years ago, right? He was telling me how squid were rolling not too far down, probably 30 miles away from where I was. I didn't have access to it. Squid were rolling, and they were skinny. And I'd never seen that before. And there was capelin were really skinny, which is a keystone. Both of these are keystone species, right? Many, many species are dependent upon it. But anyway, I posted that video because there was a guy traveling with a group of RVs and side-by-sides who was a researcher from New Brunswick. And they were studying trees that all of a sudden were infested with spiders that never ever had spiders before, but they weren't in the other trees and they weren't anywhere else. They were just on this one tree. And there was 13 of them. Showed me pictures of the people. And so I posted, and I mentioned that, right? And I had 25,000 subscribers. And YouTube took my channel down the next morning when I went to do an update. My channel was gone. No emails saying you done this or you this. You never know strikes on my account. They deep six 25,000 subscribers with 10 years of research expeditions on it, with 1,500 presentations on it. Evil, disgusting, despicable thing to do to somebody. Like burning books, right? Just unbelievable, despicable thing to do. And the research is, there was like 6 years of expeditions back and forth to from British Columbia to Alaska for 4 to 5 months a year on the ocean without coming home. This was intensive stuff. Unbelievably important stuff. And so this industry is just nothing but hate. And stupid people. That's the one consensus we're seeing. Like, the incredible education, but they have zero common sense. They have zero critical thinking skills. And that's, I guess, why they get the job. Okay, get back to the insect demise. Means global food web is on the verge of collapse. When I'm really tired, I got a tendency to... Well, everything I'm talking about is on point anyway, so what's the big whoop? Buried in the late Friday afternoon news cycle, the most recent annual assessment of available insect health indicates that the loss of the whole insect community is imminent. And spiders, of course, bioaccumulate radiation 1,000% more than background because they're liquefying their prey, right? So they bioaccumulate the radiation that way, which will have disastrous effects on the global food web. And the collapse, this is serious stuff, folks. The collapse of the insect population is due to a series of factors: loss and fragmentation of habitat, pollution from light. The majority of the planet is not covered by light. Microplastic, again, right? This is a garbage can diagnosis. And synthetic pesticides in the communities. Why are they doing that anyway in the communities? You know, like the communities has, like your cities, for instance, have huge parcels of land throughout the city that are the governments of the community, the government and the community will do the maintenance. They'll mow the lawn, they'll spray with pesticides. But if they were to grow food in all of these areas, get rid of the pesticides and grow food in all these areas, you would change your city forever, right? In fact, every city should do that, see? In spring, send out to the mailboxes, give everybody 1,000 seeds of pumpkins and peppers and everything else, and encourage them to go out and plant them. And there'd be enough food to carry most people through each winter. And spread of pathogens and parasites. And climate change. Well, you don't suppose, Mr. Big Shot, that it could be radioactive fallout covered the whole planet in about 20 fucking days and destroyed the ecosystem and the food chain? You don't suppose that could be something to do with it, do you? Now the human ability to grow enough food to sustain the world's population is truly at risk. In fact, what they're doing is they're trying to get rid of farmers. They're buying out, they're paying farmers not to fucking grow food. Because you got rid of the food basket for the Atlantic and the Pacific with radiation. You wiped out the entire coastline of North America because of Fukushima, for goodness sakes. And you got 80 years of emissions from these disease factories known as nuclear power plants already under your belt. You've poisoned the biosphere. And what they're trying to do is kill water, because water is God. I mean, there's 1,000 gods, different religions on this planet, right? But water is a god. Nobody can have life without water. There is no life. And water, everybody has that one. That's the one thing we all have in common is water, right? We drink it, we excrete it. We all have that in common. And so we're all connected worldwide because of water. And radiation destroys water. The significant declines in populations of managed native bees, which are destroyed because they bring the radioactive pollen, back to their hives, and other pollinators like the moths and that are destroying production agricultural. At the Gadwell University, they're going to result in billions of dollars economic loss to the sector and national economy by the end of 2024. In the growing season, our ability to grow food is no longer a given. This is an engineered free fall, right? An engineered extinction level event at the state. Never waste a crisis. Although honeybees get most of the credit, at least 1,500 insect pollinates plants in the United Kingdom. In some parts of the world, birds, bats, and even lizards also are pollinators. Well, everything's a pollinator that comes in contact with plants, right? The U.S. grows over 100 crop plants that are pollinated by insects and animals. Primary examples: almonds, apples, pears, fruits, cherries, pumpkins, cucumbers, blackberries, cranberries, raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, melons, tomatoes, soybeans, sunflowers. A lot of GMO too. Canada's completely destroyed with GMO. Like 30 years now of destroying us with GMO. How can he be that evil, I wonder? Insects provide critical action as pollinators, and they help create the plants we eat. No, we're completely dependent upon them, actually. Enhanced decomposition in forest soil. Right, and so the reason, and let me explain I got a neat way of doing it. Why insects, how they got wiped out from radiation. It's pretty straight. So imagine a plume. This is Fukushima plume model from the French government based on 16 days after the tsunami. So 9 days after the last reactor detonated. The plume covers the entire planet, and it never goes away. It never stops coming out, by the way. Just because this stopped, the plume never stopped coming out. It might never stop coming out. And so this plume of lethal elements that are anthropogenic man-made pulses energy over 600 feet every second. And it's going to be saturated with plutonium. Curium isotope, by the way, is the biggest byproduct of the radiated fuel rods. And need lead shielding 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium. And plutonium kills all the dogs and from multiple tumors in all the experiments. And curium is the biggest byproduct of the radiated fuel rod, which is 20 times worse than plutonium. And so when it's in the, this is covering all the forests, all the ecosystem, and it's pulsing energy every second. So anything close to the ground is getting incredible doses. And they're getting full body X-rays because you got gammas and alphas and neutrons and betas, and they all pulse almost at the speed of light, but they don't mix with each other. And so gammas and alphas or betas and neutrons, when they hit each other, that's what they do. They hit each other, and then they reflect. This Bromson log effect, a German word, Bromson log, I think is pronounced. But basically, it's a braking effect where they change direction almost at the speed of light, and that's called an X-ray. So all the species are getting full body X-rays. But which sterilizes the insects, and of course insects are prolific in reproduction, so it shows up sooner in them, right? Because they have many more generations than an adult or a human would. Thousands in some cases. And so there's another adverse effect we know about Chernobyl, was that the radiation, like a lot of radiation in the forest, kills the ecosystem. It destroys the fungus and the bacteria in the forest too. And so without the fungus and the bacteria, then the insects they need that. The plants need it. Everything needs it. Everything needs that fungus and bacteria in the ecosystem, in the biota. And so what happened now is the ground doesn't suck up water anymore because you don't have the biota. So you're not breaking down the foliage or the litter in the forest no more because you don't have the biota. You don't have the fungus and the bacteria, which creates an ecosystem for all the little species to break down the foliage and the litter. And so there's another effect from that, and we postulated years ago this is what was going to happen. Sure enough, unfortunately, this is what was happening, was that when you have that happening, now the ground doesn't soak up water, and so it becomes very dry. And so when you get any rain at all, it turns into flash floods because the ground can't soak up the rain anymore. And not only that, because you have all this foliage and litter that didn't break down because you destroyed the biota of the ecosystem. When you get lightning strikes, you have this huge wafers of foliage and litter that normally shouldn't exist because it would be very damp and all the species would break it down and recycle it, right? And so that'll wafer up these huge litters, foliage and litter that should have broken down, didn't break down for years. It's tinder dry, it's very light, and it wafers. And so it causes this jumping effect, very large pieces that normally wouldn't happen. And so you have these forest fires. Now the other problem is the forests have sequestered a lot of that radiation. And so now you're liberating all that radiation back into the ecosystem so it can repeat that cycle. And that'll go on for 1 million years. And so you can't turn that, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. But what we got to do is we got to face up to what happened. Instead of doing what the International Atomic Energy Agency and the media is claiming, that nothing happened. No, Fukushima didn't happen. Look, they're saying that never happened. That's the Stumper Ghoster Reactor 4. You got to put it into perspective that when you got all the major media claiming they're in a building that doesn't even exist, you got to ask yourself why. You got to stop pretending and start doing some critical thinking skills. I'm going to play this clip. I put this together 10 years ago in 2013, and I've been playing it constantly. I felt originally when I put this together, that's it for them, they're done. No, sir, they all got promotions.
Where I'm standing is on top of what used to be reactor building number 4. The whole of this building was blown apart by a huge explosion.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011.
Of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
At the end of our tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours, I received the equivalent of less than a chest x-ray.
1,500 highly radioactive fuel rods inside this pool. They've got to move them outside of this reactor.
Oh, now how many people think she's actually in the fuel pool at the top of the building that doesn't exist? And Cecilia Vega from ABC Australia is currently in the White House press corps. She makes $1 million a year, married to a police officer. Rupert Winfield Hayes done the same thing for Reactor 3, where he said he was at Reactor 3. And CBS said Dorn is a senator's son. And CNN, well, everybody knows they're degenerate monsters, right? But like for them to do that, the producers, the editors, the owners of these massive medias had to participate in the lie. And universities and all the other media had to participate in that lie in order for that to work. Because anybody had said, hey, wait a second, it looks like that, not like this. It's game over. So I tweeted this out to all the Greenpeace, all the major anti-nuclear groups out there, and they all blocked me and got rid of the message. What does that tell us, I wonder? Greenpeace hates my guts. All Greenpeace worldwide eventually blocked my Twitter account because I kept posting this every week or so on their channels, and they would take it down and then block me. And all Greenpeace had to do was tweet that out, and we would have had a conversation, wouldn't we? And so I decided I wasn't going to sit there and take it. And we're still going strong today, aren't we? And our key to the food chain, we really rely on insects. We'll get rid of, right? Save the insects, ban nuclear power. Save the children, ban nuclear power. Save the whales, ban nuclear power. You can get those t-shirts up at my site. And links are in the bottom of the description. Yeah, they're actually t-shirts. The proceeding of and they come with good evidence too. The proceedings of the National Academy of Science. Every time I hear something like that, I blow up laughing because they're the worst of the worst people. Like the head of the Mayo Clinic is one of the biggest lawyers on the planet. Is disgusting. Disgusting lawyers. Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Oxford, MIT. We've challenged every one of their presentations on Fukushima, and they were perpetual lawyers. It was unbelievable. The biggest shakers and movers on the planet were the quickest ones to come out and cut your fucking throat. I argued that multiple reports have drawn attention to declines in insect abundance, biomass, species richness, and range sizes. Conclusion, many simple and relatively inexpensive practices for pollinator conservation were available but not utilized. The problem with pollinators is that they're getting radioactive pollen. An opportunity exists to connect pollinator protection efforts with integrated pest management and conservative, so some species, because you get rid of their predators, will explode. Like mosquitoes are a keystone species because they feed all kinds of different species and trouts and frogs and other insects, right? Very important. So when you get rid of their predators, they'll explode because they were designed to be prolific, to feed a large population. Conservation initiative designed to protect soil, water, and air quality, enhance wildlife habitat. That's great stuff. But until you acknowledge that Fukushima has contaminated the entire ecosystem, you're never going to come up with a solution that'll work. The first one is you got to get rid of nuclear. The second one is you got to have a conversation, come up with solutions, because you got Fukushimas everywhere. Every nuclear power plant is hemorrhaging radiation from fuel pools into the ecosystem on a level that is terrifying on its own. Just a single plant is terrifying. How much radiation is coming out of the fuel pools each day. And the older the plant is, the more reactor cores are in the fuel pools, the more atoms are being split. Because that's how you boil water for 1 million people with a reactor core, 1 million businesses and homes, is you boil water by splitting atoms. Once you take it out of the reactor core, out of the containment, it's still splitting the atoms, and it's no longer in a containment. And that's not going to stop for millions of years. And this is why you always hear, nuclear waste is deadly. We got to find something to do with it. But they don't tell you why it's deadly. It's deadly because it's splitting atoms into the ecosystem. And it's not surrounded by farms because they like farms. They won't eat the food from there themselves, I can tell you that much. The end of the human ability to grow mass food stock could cause social upheavals. We must work to save the habitat. So there's good people out there or not. We have to change so that light pollution becomes unacceptable. Light pollution is just in the cities and communities. It's not the ecosystem. Like if you fly over Canada, like if you fly over British Columbia, it'll blow your mind how big the forest actually is, right? There's no light pollution. Light pollution is maybe 0.5% of the country, of any country. So to suggest that light pollution is the issue, I disrespect the person for doing that. We must reduce and eventually eliminate microplastic. These are all true, by the way, but that's not the core problem. There's no critical thinking skills. They got all kinds of degrees. They got all kinds of accolades and everything else. There's no fucking critical thinking skills whatsoever. We must fund research into the spread of pathogens and parasites. And we must commit to zero emissions lifestyle to mitigate the already dangerous effects of the climate change. Climate change is caused by 80 years of unmitigated radiation that never goes away and pulses energy at the speed of light every second. This is not fucking rocket science. This is simple stuff. Our global food supply truly does have the potential to vanish if our insect pollinators aren't around anymore. The joke would be, well, it's not a joke. This is not a joke. And this is an extinction level event. And if you're just joining us and you haven't seen the very beginning of the show, I showed you the expeditions, you'll say, yeah, this is an extinction event. Trillions of noisy flying insects have swarmed the United States for the first time in 221 years. I hope so. The two different broods have not risen from the ground simultaneously since Thomas Jefferson was the president. Billions, if not trillions. No, it's trillions. Of two groups of noisy flying insects expected to emerge from the ground, 17 U.S. states in April. And a rare natural phenomenon not seen since 1803. Then they're going to do it, lay their eggs in the soil and do it all over again. With a 3-inch wingspan. Well, most of the insect-eating birds are already wiped out, exterminated post-Fukushima. Scientists warn of an ecological collapse after record temperature spikes in Antarctica. Well, we're not allowed to go to Antarctica, right? No one's allowed there, only the apologists for the industries. That's the only people that's allowed to go there. We don't know what's going on there. We do know there's a 300 to 400 square mile oasis there. Beautiful, warm oasis, right? And that was the bird expeditions back in the 40s, I believe. But we know that much about it. We know there's an incredible ecosystem there that Fukushima definitely already has destroyed. After researchers in the East Antarctic Plateau documented a record temperature jump in March 18, 2022, warning bells have been sounding for an impending ecological catastrophe. March 18, 2022, scientists at the Concordian Research Station in Antarctica measured the largest temperature jump ever recorded on Earth. According to measurements made by a polar researcher, the region experienced a temperature rise of 101 degrees Fahrenheit above the region's seasonal average. 101 degrees Fahrenheit above their average. That's unbelievable, eh? And it's frightened researchers. Calling these people researchers is a bit of a stretch, isn't it? Mind-boggling, said the mind-boggler. I just love nature, though. I love everything about it, eh? There's no politics. No scumbag academic. No degenerate journalist. Well, I proposed Iwadi Dolphin Festival in Cambodia commune is too late. The local population has been exterminated already. 2 years after the last dolphin was found dead, members of a Cambodian commune are discussing launching a festival reflecting the animal's value. The event aims to help tourists recover in the area where after dolphins disappeared, but we suggest it might be a little, too late. Actually beautiful, isn't it? Gone. Fukushima's made the rivers to get so much radiation caused the ice couldn't crystallize. So within a few years, we started noticing the annihilation of incredible glaciers that have been there for millions of years. And that water from the glaciers, would regulate the temperatures in these rivers and estuaries and streams and everything during droughts and during normal season, even the coastlines. And that was that's the whole ecosystem. So when you took that out of the picture, now the water heats up and species can't survive there because it's not habitable anymore. The male had been named Ika, or the lonely dolphin, was reported dead February 15, 2022, having been debilitated after getting tangled in illegal fishing gear. And the death of the last dolphin put an end to the ecotourism that had thrived for nearly 2 decades. Thanks, nuclear. Visitors once arrived daily and took dolphin watching boat trips or camped on a sandy island in the middle of the river to see the friendly animals. Here's another story. In March, another 130 dolphins died in the Black Sea, and they were found off the coast of Russia. They said likely due to sonar activity by the Russian Navy ships. Sonar, like the older sonar in the 50s and 60s, is way worse than what they're doing today. And we didn't see these events back then. Bringing the total number of dolphin deaths due to the war to several thousand. I don't believe for a second that this is caused by sonar. We estimate the real number of deaths in 2024 is already several thousand animals. Taking into account the fact that the sea throws out only 5% of the dead bodies. And we wrote about this many times on our Facebook page, an estimated number of dolphins killed by the war at 50,000 animals, and the war being sonar. And I suppose they're going to say they got bubbles too. They came up too quick and got the decompression sickness. At least 380 whales reported dead after becoming stranded in shallow water near Australia. So they say that was 1 day ago. Of course, Yahoo's been doing that for the last month and a half or so, posting old stories all day, every day, and to the point where I don't even read them anymore. This was actually 2020. We covered it in 2020, right? And all the, and we've covered the total number of dead polar whales, for instance, and other whale species in Australia last year, the year before. And we have a record of everything. And so 90% of the numbers were post-Fukushima. And in 2014, 2015, we did on necropsies on the species, on the mammals, they were always emaciated and had no food whatsoever in their stomach. 29 polar whales dead after mass stranding on an Australian beach. 250 kilometers south of Perth. And like I say, 2015, 2016, the whales were always emaciated. But they stopped reporting on the health after that. Authorities are rushing to save more than 150 whales. See, when you give them these grandiose, they're your employees. From a mass stranding at the beach in Western Australia, 4 pods have spread across roughly 500 meters at Toby Inlet, and 29 of these had died. And there were 20 whales in a pod 1.5 kilometers offshore. Another pod about 110 are together closer offshore. The mass stranding has now risen from 50 to 100 polar whales. And that was April 21st, 2024, the story. 40-foot long whale washes up dead on the Bay Area beach. The animal was an adult female, estimated close to 40 feet, was on her northbound migration to Alaska for summer feeding. There's nothing up there when she get there. That whale is clearly emaciated. 8,000-pound underweight mink whale. Underweight? It's not even half its weight. It's emaciated. Mink whale. They measure 9.0 short tons in length and body mass, respectively. But confirmed the whale didn't die from a vessel strike or entanglement. I just hate these people, eh? Since 2016, mink, humpback, and North Atlantic right whales have been showing up dead with a higher occurrence than what scientists would expect. Scientist is a name we should use very rarely. It went to their head. The leading cause of a mink whale's death is biological. For humpback and right whales, it's vessel strikes and entanglement. Well, we know it's not. We know the numbers, right? It had no food in its digestive tract and a thin blubber layer. No. Hit by a ship, Dana. Just hang on. So this story right here, 2014, NOAA said it counted 28 whale strikes in the northeastern water between 2006 and 2010. 28 whale strikes. But worldwide, the National Marine Fisheries Service surveys from 1975 to 2002 found 292 records of confirmed or possible, maybe, ship strikes. But now we got these jokers. And that's what these people are. They're jokers. And they're quoted over, and we cover it all the time. They get quoted all the time saying, "Oh, it must have been a vessel strike." But then when you finally read all the way down to the story, they had never had any food and they were emaciated. Look at this. I suppose that got hit by a helicopter, did it? Scientists determine likely cause of the gray whale death in the Bay Area. First off, that's incredibly emaciated. Stunningly emaciated. I'll get to it. 2 sperm whales found dead in Sarago in less than 2 weeks. Found dead. That thing has been rotten. That has been rotten for a long time. That whale, I mean, that's a serious decomposition. 2 sperm whales were found washed ashore on the island within a span of 10 days in the Philippines. But they eventually died despite rescue efforts. Anybody really think that fucking thing was alive when it washed up? Anybody? I want to hear from somebody. I shouldn't say that. Call in at 709-589-4406 if you think that whale was alive when it washed up. I really fucking want to talk to you. Must be a nuclear scientist. 2 dead sperm whales. Australia scientists breeding 2-foot stick insects. It's not as scary as it sounds. What do you mean it's not as scary as it fucking sounds? It is scary as it sounds. Only 3 females have been seen in the wild, so scientists spent a year attempting to breed them. Looking at the size of the animals, actually quite a surprise we haven't come across a lot more. We believe they're more of a canopy dweller. These animals reach maturity and sit in the canopy until they pass away. And we don't know what they eat in the wild, how long they live, and how many eggs they produce. They'll be quick to kill them all if they get a chance. Dead Florida dolphin was infected with the highly pathogenic bird flu. Yeah, like all those sea lions in Peru, right? Fucking emaciated. Research, a university. Well, let's move on. No sense reading this story. Despite rescue effort, the dolphin died after it was found. Scientists did not suspect bird flu was the cause of death, so why did you check it for fucking bird flu then? A necropsy revealed the dolphin had contracted a highly deadly strain of the virus. How many times have we heard that when it's not true? Well, up until 2016, it was domoic acid. Wow, it must have been domoic acid. And found a bird on the side of the fucking road with a gunshot. That's probably domoic acid. Upon further research, the UF scientists found symptoms similar to those in other Florida wildlife. Because they're trying to build this narrative in increments over the last year or two that bird flu now is jumping from species to species, and that's why they're all disappearing, right? No, Fukushima's just broke the food chain, see? I hate these people with a passion, man. Now they got bird flu and walrus, Dana. No, they don't. You're going to really believe these people? He used just ordinary Q-tips to take samples from the eyes, the nose, the mouth of the dead walrus, and he sent it to a lab that only finds bird flu, and then the bird flu was detected. It was a miracle. That was a fucking miracle. Did you know Coca-Cola tests positive for bird flu too? Soap tests positive for bird flu? Because these people are hoodwinking everything and everybody for their own demise on top of that. Bird flu could be dangerous for polar bears. It's the first polar bear case reported anywhere. Anywhere. And the worst thing about getting a bunch of insects bite on your leg is you think the insects are still there. I hit it with peroxide, sprayed peroxide on it. That got rid of the itchy. And then I put the good polysporin on it. After about 2 minutes, then I forgot about it. But you got to do it every few hours or it comes back and haunts you, right? This is the first polar bear case reported anywhere. These are monsters, these people. That's why the saber-toothed tigers died of fucking bird flu, right? That's why all the trees are dying from bird flu for Dana. That's why all the rocks are dying, Dana. It's bird flu. My phone broke down because of bird flu, Dana. It's real. Serial. Cruise ship drags a dead whale in New York, prompting investigation. This story was a week ago or something, right? And a belly full of food. Why would you put that there for? Why would you say something like that? It had a belly full of food. Had a belly full of food. The belly was full. Fort Elizabeth the shipper because of it. Well, between 2000 and 1975 and 2002, there was only 260 cases of ship collision. Now it's every other fucking day. And there's less ships on the ocean. Hampton had one of 2 dead whales found in New York in 3 days. That's friggin' emaciated. Look at it. I probably bought a bird flu too, did it? A mink whale. Oh, no, that's right, a vessel strike. So they're trying to blame everything now on vessel strikes, and even worse on windmills. Vets analyzing remains of a beluga whale found dead in PEI Beach, the St. Lawrence. And so, when the plumes come in from Fukushima, they'll hit the Rocky Mountains, the Cascades, and they'll lose a lot of their payloads. That'll wash back down towards the Pacific. And then it'll rise up and go over the Rocky Mountains. And then everything on that side washes down to the Atlantic. And a lot of it will wash down to the St. Lawrence. And so the species in the St. Lawrence are being pummeled. Compared to the endangered St. Lawrence estuary. And she's so stoned, she doesn't even know what day of the fucking week it is. Look at her. There's no evidence of fishing gear or vessels were involved in the beluga's death. Must be the bird flu, right? Sometimes if you're not familiar with the coastline, they don't necessarily know how the tide works. I got a degree in arsehole. That's what she got. Let me show you. And they might just accidentally strand. They were partying all night and then they woke up on the beach and couldn't get off the fucking thing. Right? It makes more sense than what she's... Oh, I got a degree, so I can say whatever I want. And you say goodbye, you fucking piece of shit. Officials believe that beluga may have washed up on the shore accidentally after failing to navigate the tides. Like, is she from the United Kingdom or something? I wonder. Because that's usually their narrative, right? The estuary is a feeding, breeding, calving ground for belugas, known for their white skin, round shape, and small size. I love beluga whales, eh? Oh, there's some serious emaciation right there, man. Holy shit, eh? So the whale strike, get a load of this one here. 44-foot whale found dead on the bow of cruise ship. 44-foot whale found dead on a cruise ship. Oh, guess what the next one is? Cruise ship sails into New York with a dead whale. How about the other one? Cruise sails into New York with dead 13-meter whale across its bow. Oh, they're pretty inventive. I like them. And it never stops. Look at it. Dead whale, the same whale, right? Same whale, same whale, same whale, same whale. Same whale, same whale, same whale, same whales, same whale, same. They went to fucking hell on this story. Oh, I got hit by a ship, Dana. It was horrible. Why are all the whales getting hit by ships post-Fukushima? Because they're dead and they can't get out of the fucking way. When I was growing up, I grew up in a community with no automobiles, right? And 400-year bond with the ocean there. And so as a kid, I was still pretty naive, but I was a worker, you know. I done the same as an adult every day. And I got the trappings for that too, right? I got the respect for it and everything else. And like I had a beer account when I was 13. I couldn't drink jack shit, but I had a beer account and I'd go buy a beer and give it away at the end of a long day. You get up 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, you sail out the harbour in the dark in the north, open Atlantic Ocean. And then you, on the way in, you just want to do nothing but get to the wharf. You still had a lot of work to do, but you want to get to that wharf. And so it wasn't unusual to see thousands of whales. And so you slow down because you didn't want to hit a whale and fuck up and not get into the wharf, right? And Dad would come upstairs and speed the boat back up and say, stop fucking doing it. And I wait till I hear him snoring, then I slow the boat down again. But everybody would laugh at you because it was ridiculous to suggest you were going to hit a whale. I know they were only fishermen for 400 years, but I think they were onto something. I was a crack shot too. My job was to go out and, because we didn't have supermarkets, obviously, right? So my job was at 13. I had a speedboat with a brand new motor on it, on the open Atlantic Ocean, no less. I had a gas account, whatever I want to burn. I had a shell account. I had 3 guns to get my little birds, go out, shoot the little ducks and whatever the order of the day was. And we used to do Farmican and Arctic here in the wintertime, for instance. And so it didn't take you long before you got sick of, as you grew up, you didn't want beer anymore. You already done that. You didn't want cigarettes anymore. You already done that. But I was a crack shot. By the time I was 14, I was a crack shot with a gun. Like, I could hit beer stoppers at 100 paces. It was unbelievable when I look back on it. I was just natural. But my buddy was a much better shot. And I had to drop him off on the beach, and we always took our gun with us when we were on the beach, in case you get a partridge or something, because you're gonna eat it that night if he brings it home, basically. And he wanted me to come and pick him up, but I didn't notice him, right? And so he shot the little toe pin on the boat, and toe pin is where you put your oars in to row up to the beach. These pieces of wood. And it wasn't an accident either. You're on a boat in wind, drifting around. He's such a good shot. Like, I've seen him shoot. Like, you scare up a bunch of grouse. I seen him shoot 3 out of the sky with a 22. Headshot each time. Because you're only going to shoot what you can eat, right? And you go home, you clean it all out. And it's a whole ritual and that stuff. So this whale on a cruise ship, it never stopped, right? It was just page after... It was page after 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 page. I mean, they went to hell with it. And, like, because I cover this all the time. It's been a long time since I've seen them do that. But this was their chance. Oh, I was on a ship. We got pictures. Let's drive that down everybody's fucking throat. Test performed on dead whales that beached itself north of Indian River Inlet. River Inlet. And a couple of years ago, we had covered, I know there was a couple of shows where there was all these whales were found up in estuaries and rivers. And there was one whale found up in Montreal. Montreal has never seen a whale before. It's way interior Canada. Nobody knows how the fuck he made it up there. But that whale right there, and I apologize because sometimes the old sailor in me will come out and I'll start some colorful language. That whale there is clearly emaciated. A young male fin whale. Suspect the animal was suffering from an illness that may be transmissible to humans. Whenever I hear stuff like that, how many of the scientists got a disease transmitted by a whale in history? Oh, that's right, none. And who's the ones that's there each time? Oh, the scientists. Who's most likely to get it? They just hate you. They fucking hate you is what it is. They have nothing but contempt for you. Test performed on dead whale that beached itself north of Indian River. Test. It's emaciated. Clearly it's emaciated. Suspect the animal was suffering from an illness that may have been transmissible to a human. Important you don't get into the water with the animals, says Susanna Thurman at the Marine Education Research and Rehabilitation Institute. This is somebody who went right through to the top of their brain exploded when they got the job. When you're dealing with something like this, you have to remember that these are mammals. When disease is suspected, you have to be aware it could be something transferable. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Oh, she described it as emaciated. They didn't want pictures of the emaciated whales, see? Oh, it was a disease. Not a fucking disease. It's emaciated. Unless you're living... Like, if you're an academic and you deal with this stuff and you don't fucking look at all these emaciated whales and go, Jesus, I wonder what... And you can't find any pathogens. You can't find any... It ain't the fucking bird flu. It ain't the moic acid like you've been screeching for years. It had not been ingesting food for some time. Like, who the fuck talks like that anyway? The stomach intestines were empty, so we know it hadn't been eating. And you keep seeing those connotations, right? This phrasing, as if they're talking to a fucking man on a moon or something. It's emaciated. It starved to death. You broke the food chain. No, they got to say the stupidest fucking sentences. And if you play them backwards, it probably says, "Where the devil? Where the devil? I'm Satan." Right? If you play it backwards, that's what you'll end up getting. Oh, did I mention there was a cruise ship with a dead fucking whale on his bow? Can we get a bombing somewhere? We need some aliens at the mall. So people are not looking at the dead whales. Dead whale washes up on Pismo Beach amid the offshore sonar use. This has got to be British. The whale's cause of death is unknown. You know, emaciated. You got any picture? It shows a picture. Oh, Jesus. Cause of death. Oh, it looks like a ship strike to me, Dana. Shut up. amid offshore sonar use. Does that look like fucking sonar done that? Like, these are the worst people imaginable, the ones that the media is quoting. One more dead dolphin washes ashore. Philippines, I can't remember. That one's emaciated. It weighed 50 kilos, measured 2 meters, 13 inches. 150 dolphins dead in the Amazon, and scientists blame 102-degree water. Yeah, because you don't have glaciers anymore, right? So the Amazon is fed by glaciers. The distant source of the Amazon is evaporating away. I looked up this story. The glaciers believed to be the most distant source to the largest river is expected to disappear in just years. And so what happens is the glacier, you know, during droughts, that extra water is coming down will keep the levels up, right? So migratory fish, sturgeons and sea bass and everything else, salmon can go upriver, right? But that river is more than fish. Because when you heat it up like this, you destroy the oxygen, for starters, right? It's a hypoxia. But you also cause the keystone species in that to disappear too, right? Because you break that food chain. But the glaciers, that water would mitigate the temperatures. And so you don't have the glacier, guess what happens? Everything starts to friggin' die. So rather than talk like a human, they got to play every fucking game in the book. And looks like I already descended into the cursing and swearing. I apologize. There's not much I can do about it now. Might as well keep on going. The glacier's gone, stupid. That's the solution. That's what happened. No, it was tin cans and fucking pop bottles, Data. Now it's just dry rock. Sometimes with water trickling down parts of it, but most of the time it's just dry. He's probably picking his nose when he said that. Lucky bastard. My fingers are so busted I can't even pick my own nose anymore. That's a joke, folks. A very good one, I suppose, but it's true. If I wanted to, I couldn't do it. My fingers are wrecked. The tips of my fingers. Can't even play guitar. One of the few trappings I actually have that I enjoy. I can't even play guitar. I was trying to open a chummy here tonight, and I had to pinch it back here because I couldn't grab it with my fingertips. I'll get better. In a few days. Nuclear weapons testing. So, in total, according to the same study, Peru's lost just over 53% of its original glacier cover, 1,285 square miles at original 2,400 square kilometers since 1962. A period roughly equivalent to when industrial greenhouse gas emissions first began ramping up. Oh, 1962. Which coincidentally happened to be the same time the nuclear weapons testing went into fucking, which was a war. That's a nuclear. When you look at this and you call it nuclear weapons testing, it's because you're thoroughly indoctrinated. That's a war. Like Castle Bravo was equal to 1,000 Nagasaki's, because it's a plutonium bomb, going off at the same time. If 1,000 nuclear bombs going off is not a fucking war, what actually is, I wonder? If North Korea and South Korea tosses a couple of nuclear weapons at each other, we're going to say that's a nuclear war, right? But if you pop a big nuclear weapon is equal to 1,000 Nagasaki bombs going off at the same time, that's not a nuclear war. You're fucking delusional. When you look at this and you don't consider this a nuclear war, when you look at the Soviet Union's, their biggest bomb was equal to 3,800 Nagasaki bombs going off at the same time. 3,800 nuclear weapons going off at the same time. And if you don't understand Nagasaki, go look up a few fucking pictures of it. And then multiply it by 3,800. And try not to call that a nuclear war. So what you're seeing here, the same time as industrial greenhouse gas emissions first began ramping up, was the same time as the nuclear weapons peak that continued on during that whole period, right? Look at this. So the radioactive fallout, by the way, never goes away. And anybody don't consider this insanity, a nuclear, massive, sustained nuclear war. Like the nuclear testing on what the French done to the French Polynesians was equal to a Nagasaki bomb every week for 12 years of radioactive fallout. That's a nuclear fucking war, no matter how many ways he spins it. That's why all the children out there are like jelly. They're just disposed of. Castle Bravo, the Marshall Islands, there's still 1 million. In 2019, a study showed 1 million square kilometers was uninhabitable all these years later because of nuclear weapons fallout. But it was equal to a Nagasaki bomb a day for 12 years in radioactive fallout. That's not a nuclear war. Now, it's not just going to be segregated to the Marshall Islands, which is a nursery for the ocean. They destroyed every one of the tropical paradises. They went out and just evaporated a lot of them, the French, the British, the Americans in particular. And they're not the only ones, obviously. But, I mean, they took great pride in going out and destroying all of the best archipelagos, the most amazing, actual paradises, tropical paradises. They went and destroyed it forever. That alone should have you hating the nuclear industry with every soul in your body. Not as much as you're going to hate nuclear scientists down the road when you works out the truth. And see, if you don't call these stuff nuclear war, it's because you're thoroughly indoctrinated. You're a good slave. So 1962, a period roughly equivalent to when the industrial greenhouse gas emissions first began ramping up, is the same time frame Let me put that somewhere where I can find it. Because that's such an important facet. We like stuff like that because we can use it to bludgeon the industry with for a long time. Job well done, and away we go again. Let me type something there, actually. Carbon free. I'll find it that way for sure. And greenhouse. And laugh out loud. Looks like a winner for Dana. Ooh, 150 dolphins dead in the Amazon. Nobody knows why. Dolphin dead after being repeatedly shot in Louisiana. $20,000 reward. Fukushima kills everything else and no one gives a fuck. No insects, no birds. World migratory birds. And that's what we're going to be doing pronto. Hopefully tomorrow, starting tomorrow. I'm so busted up, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do anything else. But try stopping me. We just worked like a dog for 2.5 weeks to get everything ready to get a trailer. Rebuilt the whole trailer. I can't even wrap my mind around it that we got that accomplished now. I'm just so grateful, eh? But I really can't wrap my mind around it that it's done and that the boat is sitting on the trailer. And so tomorrow I got to throw the couple of motors on the boat. I got videos coming up. You'll see what kind of hellish day I had. It was something special today. Let me get out of the way for a second. Isn't that just beautiful? Mother Nature. And the nuclear industry now has fucked us out of that forever. Today on World Migratory Bird Day, what was the date on that? May 11, 2024. There's no World Migratory Bird down here. There's 46 million birds missing. We're on the biggest migratory route of seabirds on the entire planet. And they didn't show up last year or the year before the year before. I know because I'm out there researching it. And I can guarantee if 46 million birds showed up somewhere else, I would have seen a headline about it. It would have made headlines. They're gone. They don't change their migratory route anyway, right? There's a million generations. It's built into them like a clock ticks a second, right? We celebrate the essential role insects play in fueling the journey of migratory birds across vast distances. And these tiny creatures are vital for replenishing the energy reserves of traveling birds of all sizes, influencing the timing, duration, and overall success of migration. And there was 1 million plus died 3 years ago. There was 179 species dropping dead everywhere in the United States and Canada. We covered that. And I got it there. I can dig it up if I want to, but I'm not going to do it right now. They were emaciated. No muscle left, no fat reserves, and nothing in their stomachs. They were emaciated, and they were just dropping out of the sky. It was horrifying. And this is particularly evident at crucial stopover points where peak insect abundance coincides with the arrival of traveling birds. In 2000, you had to clean your windshield all the time. And by 2020, well, it was before that, by 2020, there was nothing on your windshields. Well, you might get a scare. Now, I went to the city to pick up stuff the other day. I did. There was a couple of spots there where we got insects on the windshield, which is the first time in years and years and years that I've seen that. The last time I seen it was at Banff up in Alberta, at the very top of the mountains. That's where I ran into for about 2 hours. There was areas where you get quite a few insects on the windshield, and I remember thinking, and I pulled over. I took almost 1,400 pictures of the glaciers. I should post them up at my website, because I can guarantee you there ain't no glaciers there now. Snowpack, but that'll be gone before summer gets in full swing. So in 2000, even in 2011, you were cleaning your windshield like crazy. By 2016, you didn't have to clean your windshield no more. And all of these events are post-Fukushima events, right? And I know if you're new here, because I talk about it like it's old news, because to me it is, right? And to everybody that's here regularly, this is old news. And there's nothing good about it. But when you look at all of these videos I produce with these particular attributes, you got to ask yourself some deep questions. Dana got a point, maybe? The thing with me is I'm honest, and that's a fucking flaw, because it leaves me sleepless a lot. But I don't do all this work because I'm bored. I'm doing it because somebody better find the truth, right? And given the critical role insects play as the foundation of the ecosystem, as well as an important food source for birds and other wildlife, they decline, presents significant ecological challenges, and jeopardizes the delicate balance. Nuclear done that to you. The loss and disturbance of the insect population along avian migratory routes pose a direct threat to the bird populations. And there is no migratory birds here. There's no one I talked to in the last 3-4 years, and I do it all the time. And I'll say to them, when was the last time you seen a flock of birds, migratory birds? And they're like, geez, that's a good question. I never thought about it. I'm going to start paying attention. Yeah. A shortage of insects, which are rich in energy and protein, can lead to a weakened immune system. Well, your immune system becomes compromised. You're more susceptible to pathogens and viruses. But even then, bird flu ain't going to do it to you. Lower reproductive success and higher mortality rates among adult birds and their offspring. This is stuff that we've been showing on our research for quite a few years now, post-Fukushima. For instance, the white stork relies on insects during its travel across sub-Saharan Africa, where it predominantly feeds on the red locust and desert locust, and changes in the insect abundance due to human activity and environmental disruptions. So you got to blame humans instead of the industries. Nuclear industry is behind it all. I mean, there's a lot of wicked chemicals, right? There's 60,000 chemicals that were grandfathered in when the EPA was created in 1978, with no environmental and human impact studies whatsoever. I'm fucking aware of all this because I covered it a long time ago. But nuclear is the one thing that goes under everybody's radar. And it's the one thing that never goes away. And it's been hemorrhaging unmitigatedly into the ecosystem for 80 years. And I mean, they spent 36 years dumping it into the ocean. The British in particular were dumping it on the continental shelves. You know, these barrels are not meant to handle external pressure. So as soon as a barrel gets down around 33 feet, it's got another, as soon as it goes underwater, it's 14.5 pounds per square inch or so. When it gets to 33 feet, it's another 14.5 pounds. When it goes another 33 feet, it's another 14.5 fucking pounds. The barrel goes, ooh, and all the radiation is immediately released into the ecosystem. Like monstrous. What they done is monstrous. And they knew what they were doing. They were doing it on purpose. What's killing the Southern California brown pelicans population? Emaciated and dying birds started showing up on beaches from Orange County to Malibu several weeks ago. Emaciated storks, eh? Brown pelicans, rather. Emaciated pelicans, which eat, fish. After the emaciated, dying birds started showing up on the beaches. Now there's indication the youngs are being affected. No big surprise, are we? Who's shocked about that, I wonder? So the pelican chicks are being found dead in their nests. Yeah, they'll abandon them, right? So the pelican chicks are being found dead in their nests, and either something happened to the parent, they couldn't keep feeding them, or the parent just wasn't able to forage and catch enough fish to keep themselves alive. It's an extinction event due to a pulse event in 2011 called Fukushima multiple nuclear meltdowns. The national, they're not censoring me insanely tonight, and every night because they're bored. They're doing it because they don't want you to fucking read and hear this stuff. The only long-term breeding colonies of California brown pelicans in the United States. The Wetland Wildlife Care Center, which is an on-site veterinarian, has seen a huge increase in pelicans brought in for treatment. Other marine wildlife care centers are reporting similar numbers. Many birds suffering from emaciation, malnutrition, anemia. These are all the same thing. These are emaciation. They starve to death. We know they're starving. We don't know why. Hello, Fukushima. Hello. Consider since no pathogens were discovered. I fucking hate these people, eh? They even invoked that. Among them, food sources such as bait fish, which have been swimming out of reach of the pelicans, which typically only dive to 6 feet when hunting. But why the bait fish are doing this is still unclear. No, they're not, bait fish are not living deeper. They're fucking gone. The food chain is broken. The food they're dependent upon, the zooplankton, the phytoplankton, is gone. Seal release is halted after fish stock concerns. Well, fish are going anyway. The seal's going to, all the other species are going to eat the fish too. The RSPCA has paused releasing rescued seal in Lancashire River after concerns they've been damaging. They should put the fragile fish stocks, because that's what it is. We found fish carcasses and fish were half alive. Then we saw the seals hunting them. Well, the seals got to eat, but they're typically going to get the weakest prey, right? And that's what's going on. The fish are dying anyway, see? and the seals are just picking up the slack. According to Harris, a recent survey analyzing the fish population in the River Ney highlighted there were 0 adult fish in the water. 0 adult fish. There's 10 billion fucking crab missing in Alaska, for Christ's sakes. 10 billion. Just, fisheries over forever. Because where does radiation like to settle to? On the ocean floor, where all the crabs live. He said the decline in it, and so they get the bioaccumulation, stop reproducing, and then it's c'est la vie forever. At least we got pictures to prove they were here one time, I suppose. He said the decline in numbers following seals become apex, overwhelming predators in the rivers. No, they're getting the fish that are already vulnerable. Angler discovers leads officials to 14 huge invasive fish. See the pond monsters? More than 3 foot long beakhead carp, 3 feet long. And the largest fish weighed in at 46 pounds. Why are they smiling, I wonder? I don't know what to make of these people, man. They're big plankton eaters. And they threaten overall health of the ecosystem by competing with several native and sports. Well, what probably happened was the native species died out. The plankton was blooming, and then the carp were able to... And they probably got gigantism from radiation, right? Bird flu is infecting more mammals. What does that mean for us? And this is the New York Times, I think. Yeah, the Times, rather. In her 3 decades of working with elephant seals, I'd never seen anything like the scene on the beaches of Argentina's peninsula last October. Just carcass upon carcass of carcass. 24,000 South American sea lions. And they said the cause was bird flu. But, again, none of these are healthy. These are not bird flu. The New York Times. And seals and sea lions shouldn't have any wrinkles in their skin, right? Increase in the number of seals getting stranded on Maine's coast linked to bird flu. Oh, yeah, the trees are dying from the bird flu now. Confirmed the first human case of the strain of bird flu in an inmate at a Colorado prison. So that was an inmate in a jail locked away. Bird flu. Who injected him with it, I wonder? Mass stranding of polar whales, 24th of April, 2024. And we covered that earlier. April 24th. And in 2014, 2015, I showed you the headlines earlier. When they showed up, they were always emaciated and starving to death. No food in their stomach whatsoever. But they never, since 2016, they stopped reporting on their health. And clearly they're emaciated. They got all the markers, right? People are urged to keep clear. Yeah, the industry is anal about anybody except for them. We know people want to help, but we ask people not to attempt to rescue the animals without directions from the authorities. It cause further injury and distress to the animals. Fucking animals are dying on the beaches. You don't want people to go down and push them back in the water. Fuck you. You piece of shit. You arrogant fucking anal authoritarian piece of shit. You ain't there doing it. Get out of the fucking way. You really think everybody's stupid except for you fucking piece of shit? Oh, could be sound, acoustic pollution. Humans are louder in the ocean, said scumbag. And the sound could potentially be disrupting to the animals. The ocean has been noisy for how many fucking decades now? 100? Or 100 years? 10 decades? Why don't you tell us if they had anything in their stomach or not, you disgusting parasite? Yeah, well, we're almost through. My apologies. I start getting cranky after 2 hours. We're at 2.5 hours now, are we? Not cranky, but it's all good. Don't worry about it. Study says agriculture will likely drive wild salmon extinctions in Newfoundland. Well, not everybody agrees with that. In fact, one person said the majority of the rivers in Newfoundland and Labrador have seen concerning declines, and they're nowhere near any farming activity. They're trying to blame it on the farming activity, but all the rivers have seen a complete decline. And when I was doing the research expeditions, I never done them last year because I had heart attacks, right? And a long recovery. But when I was out on the trails at the salmon rivers, there's nothing in the river. There's no farms, agricultural farms anywhere. Oh, it's climate change. Oh, warming oceans are the drivers of those changes. Yeah, and there's always this garbage can diagnosis, isn't it? Okay, well, that's the show. I'm going to get some pictures and videos from today. Let's drag our way through that stuff. This will go pretty quick. And so that is for my trailer hitch. That's my trailer hitch setup. And it was so bad. So I decided, like an idiot this morning, I was going to clean it up, which turned into a nightmare. We got it all cleaned up, so that's all that matters. Alrighty. So hopefully, and I don't think I'm using them. I got those guys, right? And got the extension out because it clears you the tire, and we can put the winch in the top one and the trailer in the bottom one. I think we'll put it back together. So it was an hour and 40 minutes altogether this morning doing all the prep work. That includes getting the boat ready to put on the trailer and everything else. That was just one big chunk of rust. So it looks a lot better. She looks good now. Looks fantastic. Looks fantastic compared to a couple hours ago. It's a miserable day, so might as well take my time and do the extra work, right? Work we did. And so I brought it out on the other trailer and put it on there, and then brought it back and got busy on it. Another video came up. So I got some water damage on the back of the boat. Look at that, eh? I'm going to mix up a bunch of body filler, I guess, and smear that all through it so that water can't get back down there. It should be okay. And then I got to mount that. The motor mount. Just minor stuff. I can't find the centerpiece for the floor. I've checked everywhere. You're not going to slow me down, though. Because it's 4 years since we used it. I must have lost it. So I'm gonna have to cut out a piece of plywood, I guess, and make it fit. That's gonna be, it's kind of my priority right now before I put the little cabin on it and the motors on it. And I was just a couple of days from my backup camera expiring the receipt, so I went down and exchanged it and got another backup camera. And I just ran the power wire to the reverse lights, and I'm gonna mix up some, I got some deer. I don't know if I got enough, but I got some deer. Body filler. I think I know where the hardener should be, right there where the cannons are. And do that right now. Get that out of the way. Because that stuff will dry in a half an hour, right? And while it's drying, I'll hook up the reverse camera. Got to give it a bit of a wash here. And got to hack out I got a piece of plywood there. I'm going to cut it and make it fit. And then I'd like to get it all finished this afternoon, right? And then hook it up to the boat and then be ready to go. And so half an hour later, got the first coat on. Okay, first coat. That's the first coat. I'll sand it down when it dries. Alrighty. So then I'm gonna epoxy. I'm gonna epoxy this one on top of that one. Gotta let the air out. Gotta let the air out, I guess. Make that work. And epoxy that one on top of that one, and that'll level the floor. That'll level the floor. I got that done now. I do believe that's gonna work. There it is now. Look at that. I like it. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Hell, that's better than the old one. Alright. So we got the backup camera. A new one. I went down and I had like just a couple of days before you couldn't exchange it for a new one, right? And so good thing I thought about it, because there it is. Yeah, because I got to do so much backing up with the boat and so much hooking up. Every time you're hooking up, you got to get out like 6 times. It just wears you out, right? Ye doggy. Well, it's almost 6 o'clock. I'm going to have to give it up. We're doing a show in about... What the hell is that? Oh, I gotta fix that so we can cure overnight. And so, yeah, that it's because sitting around for a couple of years, it started peeling. So I mixed up a bunch of really grit epoxy. Put the motors on tomorrow morning. I'm mixing some glue because that's tearing off, right? And these got to hook onto that, so give it overnight to cure. Dying. I was out there for 10 and a half
Looks
hours
good.
today. 10 and a half hours.
Alright, so we actually had, this is coming off on both sides. And, I don't know. So I got both sides done. It's almost 7 p.m. Supposed to do a show in 3 hours. Been out here since 8:30 a.m. and I never even stopped a single time. And so I don't even know if I'm doing a show. I'm probably stupid enough to do a show. I had to spray all of them, they were rusted. That's not the ones I wanted to use. I wanted to use these guys. And they're not long enough, so I had to use them to set up the hooks. It's all good.
So that's to keep it, because I got things
It's
glued,
madness,
right?
eh? Oh well.
That's just temporary.
I don't know what to say. It's one big mess anyway, I know that much.
I'm getting there, man. That was 3 hours before I started the show tonight. It was 10.5 hour day. And when I say 10.5 hours, I mean 10.5 hours. Not 9.5. Not in sitting around doing this or doing that. That was 10.5 hours of hardcore. But I got the trailer wrapped up. We got the boat on the trailer. We got the chummy on the trailer and the boat to cover. I'll power wash everything in a few days. So I'll give it a soap blaster and then I'll let it soak in. Do that a couple times and I'll clean it up. And then I'll wash it with gasoline. And that'll come pretty clean. But that cabin that I got on it, that's great for shelter, right? Because the heat will cut you in two up. And so we're going to be out on the ponds and the rivers. We're going to be taking water samples and putting them under the microscope. I'm just terrified thinking about it. Let's close the poll down, I suppose. We're at that stage tonight. Would you rather have flocks of birds and insects and bees and whales and animals and mammals and all the beautiful species rather than nuclear power? Because you can't have fucking boat. You can't have boat, right? I'll get there. Hang on. Okay. Well, that's it, I suppose. That's all I got in me tonight. How long have we been going? We're over the 2 hour limit, I think. It's 20 to 1. It's all great anyway. Appreciate everybody who participated in the poll. Thank you, everybody. If you make it this far in the video, please remember to give us a thumbs up. I don't know if it'll register or not, but yeah, it's all coming together. Thank you, everybody. Hugs for everybody. You know what I'm like. You know what I'm going to be doing the next couple of days. I got to put tomorrow morning I'm going to put the two motors, the two 4-strokes on, because I got one for a backup. You can't row the boat, a Zodiac with the cabin on it, right? I still got to remember to throw the oars in there, though. I got to make a list as soon as I go out. As soon as I leave the studio, I got to make a list of life jackets, anchors, flares, good stuff. So I don't forget. And get that on the boat, and that way I don't accidentally do something stupid. And we bought a lot of rope in the last month, too. So now I got the anchor. I got a chain there somewhere I can use. And I already got a lunch ready. I got a big friggin' bowl of vegetables diced up. Like onions and peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers and spinach and everything all diced up. So then I'm going to bring a pita bread with me so I can have a real nice snack. I desperately want to get out and start doing some research. I desperately want to. And so we're there. We're on the cusp now of research expeditions right up until fall. But I'm not very healthy, but I'm going hard. So let's just keep our fingers crossed. It's just too much work for one person. And everything I got is old, right? And it's been used, you know, that Zodiac's been to Alaska 6 times. And, but I've done all the maintenance and blah, blah, blah. The motors are all, should be okay. And we bought a bunch of oil. We got a bunch of this, picked up gas the other day. I'm feeling it. I thought today would turn out really good for us. Problem is right now I'm really tired, so I might not shut up, so I better probably just shut up. Hang on there, I'll set up the closing. The closing. Holy shit, we went through a lot tonight, didn't we? Yeah, we went through a lot. So let me get rid of all this so I don't have to do it next time. Yeah, so that'll clean up really good. We'll get around to it. Okay, well, I'll let you go. Enjoy your night. Have a great weekend. I'm going to turn the music up here before I disappear. See everybody on the other side. Don't forget the thumbs up if you make it this far in the video. We appreciate it. I do. Have a great night, everybody. Hugs for everybody. Take care, folks.